Doing that because you know I would be like.
Well, it wasn't for you. Anybody, I tell anybody within hearing range of this thing, I tell it to, no matter where I'm at. Because sometimes they're in a personal discussion and they don't know I hit the live stream button. We've been going here for 4 or 5 years.
Well, I knew that, like, just in general.
Oh, but this one is,
Who? Why would I sue these guys?
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. We will call to order the January 12th Shelby County Board meeting. If I could start out with the roll, or call to order with the prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for your great love and blessings in our lives. We place our work and ourselves in your hands. Guide us in our decisions, always putting the interest of the people we serve above our own. We pray that you bless all of us with wisdom and humility. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can have the roll call, please.
Mark Bennett. Here. Bruce Bay. Cody Grant. Here. Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole. Here. Charles Davis.
Here.
Julie Edwards. Here. Martha Fernhaber. Here. Clay Hardy. Here. Matt Kessler. Here. Annette Martin. Here. Tad Mayhall. Here. Keith McCormick. Here. Tim Morse. Here. Lori Nelson. Here. David Ogden. Here. Bobby Orman. Here. Sonny Ross.
Here.
Mitchell Shutt.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Brett Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a full quorum.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from December 8th, 2022, regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. That's Charlie. Seconded by Brent. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is public body comment. I will open the floor to the public for public body comment.
I have only one question, and the sheriff here, he can probably answer that. And I just noticed it like 10 seconds ago. Item number 14. Do any of those firearms run afoul of the newly passed law if you would offer them up for bidding?
Run afoul of what?
The Illinois, the gun ban crap they just passed.
It might depend who could bid on them and possess them, yes. So, and it might also lower what we get for them. Many times we get our bids though from police dealers, and they can still turn around and sell those, you know, like from rail herons out of Danville, so.
All right, I was just checking it. I didn't know.
But
Thanks.
yeah, yes,
Any other public body comment? Sir?
Hi, my name is Jake Smallhorn. We're probably the only group of people not here for all the other stuff. We're here to talk about the Lithia Springs subdivision plat that you guys are going to consider the preliminary survey of tonight. And, not preliminary survey, I'm sorry, the preliminary plat. And I've got an exhibit I would like to hand out to everyone. Is that all right if I hand it out to you guys? Here. I didn't know how many to print for everyone, but I represent Mark and Carla Goodwin and William Curl, who are the people that actually live in this proposed subdivision. Who else is on the board? Is it everyone? All right, somebody might have to share. And I don't want to take up everybody's time.
No, I think he's just giving it to us now.
Sorry. Well, it's a document that I think has probably been circulated in the past, and some of you may have seen it before. But we have some concerns about the proposed plat that we would like to bring to the board's attention. Specifically with regard to flooding and stormwater runoff and drainage. It's my understanding after talking to the zoning commissioner that that was a concern that was discussed at the planning level as well. But their hands were kind of tied because although it's a consideration the board can take, and that's pretty clearly laid out in your ordinance, that flooding and drainage are two issues that you can consider when deciding whether or not to approve a preliminary plat. It's not necessarily in the list of things that they need to see on the proposed preliminary plat. So I believe based on that, correctly at the zoning level, they said everything is on the plat that's required by our ordinance. But the ordinance also says that you can consider flooding and drainage when deciding whether or not to approve even a preliminary plat. And if anybody wants to know, I can point you to the part of your code that says that, or you can trust me, but I'm an attorney, so I'll assume you won't. But my clients have some serious concerns about flooding on their property, and I believe, although it wasn't a decisive factor, those issues were expressed and discussed in great length at the planning stage. And what I'm giving you is an affidavit from an engineer that my clients personally hired to go out and take a look at this issue. His name's Stephen Edwards. He's an engineer. You have his CV there. And you can see what my clients are concerned about in this affidavit. They're concerned with the lack of a drainage plan in the proposed preliminary plat. We're asking the board not to approve even the preliminary plat tonight and require them to give the board some more detail about about what they're going to do with drainage or what is even proposed, because when you look at the preliminary plat that's attached as an exhibit to it, it's not adequately addressed within the plat that they've provided. And I've heard the comment, well, there's years of the lawsuit going on here. Why didn't you deal with it with the court? Because I believe this is the county's job to deal with this. This is approval of a plat. There's a problem with the plat regarding drainage. That's an issue that's within your board's purview. Even if it's not specifically required by your ordinance to show a drainage plan in the plat itself, you can certainly require that it be satisfactorily done And what I would submit to you and ask you to, if you need to consult with the zoning board chair or anybody else, it's not there in this document. They haven't provided you with the basic information needed to determine whether or not there's going to be adequate drainage in this subdivision. And I'll be pretty brief. It's detailed more fully in the affidavit itself what our concerns are, but our concerns are pretty basic, that it doesn't really show you where things drain properly. It doesn't show you how they're going to deal with water runoff as this subdivision gets built. And I will let the county know there's a court order requiring them to start building once this thing gets approved. So we better be right before we start having the developer start building. Let's get the information we need before we go on and approve even a preliminary plat. Make them show you that this is going to work from a drainage and stormwater runoff standpoint. Does anybody have any questions or? Yeah.
Who developed this plat?
Well, it would have been the Galvins in consultation with their engineer.
Okay, so from that point, how did it get to the zoning commission that met 2-3 weeks ago?
First of all, I don't represent the Galvins. I represent the Goodwins and Mr. Curl.
Right.
It got there because, quite frankly, I filed a motion with the court compelling them to do this because they haven't done anything in a decade practically. So I filed a motion asking the court to compel them to do what they've been ordered to do now for several years, which is to initiate the process to have the plat approved. So after I filed the motion, we went to court and the judge said, you know, you've been ordered now for years to do this, you need to do it. And magically it got filed.
So how long was it from the time the plat was distributed between both parties to the other party, from the Galvins to your clients? How long was it before that exchange of information until the planning commission met? How long was that?
Between when this was originally exchanged with us, this document was only pretty recently provided to us, but there was a different, very slightly different, I don't want to misrepresent anything, all the way back, I think, in late of 2021. These are issues we've been trying to address with the Galvins, but it's my opinion that this is the body that ultimately approves and disapproves plats. This is your role here. Your role is to make sure that this plat is in the best interest of the community. And I can tell you right now that we have grave concerns based on a lot of missing information in the plat that's been proposed.
So in terms of engineering and development, what are the rules as far as creating unnatural water flow? So if you build a house here, it creates unnatural water flow in the wrong direction, which creates a problem for the neighbor. What kind of engineering rules are there to prohibit that?
Well, it's not so much an engineering problem. It's luckily something you get to pay me to deal with.
Drainage law that would prevent somebody from causing water flow in the wrong direction, for a second.
So anybody who even knows a farmer probably knows this statement. You can't obstruct the natural flow of water. That's just kind of the base of drainage law in Illinois. But I would say to you that's a somewhat different issue than what I'm trying to talk about today. You can go sue someone in court for a tort it's like trespass for dumping water onto your land. Well, that's one thing you can do after it's already happened. When it comes to approving a plat that will alter the flow of water, and I mean, I think everyone here understands, if you start building a subdivision and roads and ditches and putting in packed soil, you're going to alter the flow of water. There has to be, at the bare minimum, some description or some plan for how that altered flow is going to be dealt with on a large scale. It's not something, in my opinion, that you should leave to future people down the road to have to deal with. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, to an extent. I just, when I think about current status of the property and changing it to development, is there like specific laws that engineers that are doing the dirt work would have to follow to protect the existing properties?
And without, I can get into detail if you want, but the answer to that question is yes. They have to do a calculation and certify that it is not going to materially alter the rate or flow of water on the land.
So they can't obstruct the flow off, and they can't create flow on.
They can't increase the rate or flow without getting approval for it.
We had a bunch of other questions on
Yeah.
open board. Go ahead. Do we want to wait until we actually get into this on the agenda, or we want to go for it right now? Because we do, in respect of other people's times that are here, we need to be cognizant of that too.
We should wait till.
Let's wait.
And I'm happy to do that.
It's on the agenda.
Table it, get it on.
Okay, so is there any quick questions that we can address, or do we just want to kind of move the rest of your presentation questions to the agenda?
Absolutely.
Let's do that. Any other
Public body comment?
I just have one, Kirk Allen. In regards to the presentation on the Ask Me versus Shelby County Board, Shelby County Treasurer, that grievance, I would urge confirmation that the grievance that was filed was frivolous. Anybody that's read the grievance, if you haven't, I would encourage you to read it. It's absolutely frivolous. The county board was alleged to have not negotiated in good faith. That's not true at all. You guys signed the contract. You complied with the contract. It's a complete frivolous filing, and they should have to pay your attorney fees on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other public body comment? Public body comment? Public body comment. Hearing none, we will skip to item 8, which is a presentation by Attorney Chris Custer on the Ask Me 31 versus Shelby County Board and Treasurer on the ILRB case S-RC 21-045. And I'd like to make a motion that in regards to Open Meetings Act ILCS 120, Section 2C11, we go to closed session. And can I get a second? I make a motion to go to closed session.
I'll second that.
I've got a second by Julie. All in favor,
No,
say
you
aye.
gotta do a roll call vote.
Oh, sorry, roll call.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Charles Davis, Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber, Clay Hardy, Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin, Tad Mayhall, Keith McCormick, Tim Morse, Laura Nelson, David Ogden, Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Sheff, Don Tate, Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
No.
Motion passes 20 yes, 2 no, Ross and Williams.
Okay, if everybody would please just wait out in the hall for a short time here, we're gonna discuss this matter in litigation.
All right. Can I leave my camera here live stream? Just kidding.
You're kidding.
No. Took a few minutes before you realized what he said.
much, everybody. Yeah. What were you in court for? Oh, sure.
Be on jury because I'm
I may resign from the board if I get called to jury duty.
So, I don't know. There's no, whether department heads even participate.
That's disconcerting.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Mark, second by Carol. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yep.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis.
Yes.
Julie Edwards. Martha Fernhaver.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shubb.
Yep.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
What I'm going to do now is go back to the very top of the agenda where we left off. And we'll start back with, number 5 is the announcement of the vacancy of the office of State's Attorney effective 4 p.m. January 31st, 2023 due to the resignation of Nicole County. Do I need a motion to accept the resignation? Okay, so there's the announcement. Item 6 is discussion and vote on the approval to approve the resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Lithia Estates subdivision, 4 owners of David and Barb Galvin, located in Shelbyville Township. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Jeremy makes a motion to approve. Do I get a second? Mark seconds. Now open the floor for discussion. Martha.
Having sat in on the meeting that you all had about this, I'm just curious because the attorney had mentioned. Yeah, sorry, I was looking for you over here, my apologies. Had mentioned that there was a court order to start building once the plat is passed. But I don't recall that being a part of the discussion at the committee meeting. So I just would like some clarification on that, please.
I don't know anything about a court order saying, I know there's a court order saying it has to be maybe built in stages. I do know there was a court order that basically told the subdividers they had to submit a plat to the county. I have copies of it if anybody wants a copy of it. I can pass it.
Sir, do you mind telling us?
But can I give you guys a little background first here?
Bobby, sorry. For all you new board members, this is Bill Smith. He is our zoning administrator.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not just coming in here throwing. So our ordinance says once a preliminary plat is filed with the county clerk, I have 90 days to have the planning commission meet. David and Barbara Galvin filed it with the county clerk on October 24th. So that gave me till sometime in January, I think January 22nd. Planning commission has to meet within those 90 days. I had the planning commission meet on December 13th. And during that commission meeting, we discussed water table levels extensively. Okay? The health department was there. We have soil samples from 2017. Some lots, the water table was high, and some not so bad. Okay? So during that discussion, we talked about what would happen. And basically, if they're out to an acre or more, as you can see on the plat. So they're not small parcels anymore, like the original plat back in the 70s. So the health department, I don't know if I should say his name, but he was there and we discussed it, and basically, as long as the water stays on that acre. So if they have a septic system or an aeration system, it has to stay on their acre. Gutter runoff, sump pump, all that. It's kind of hard to tell whether they can keep it on there or not. We talked about building a evaporation pit where you dig a hole and fill it full of rock, if that would be enough. You really can't know until you know. And I mean, I'm not an engineer, so, and if someone builds out there and they keep the water on their acreage, it's not going to alleviate the problems that the people who live out there now have. It's not going to, I'm hoping it doesn't increase their problem, but it ain't going to alleviate their problem. As long as that water stays within the acreage of the person who owns that property at this time. It's kind of like a buyer beware type thing. If someone buys that lot, you know, like me as a zoning administrator and the health department's going to have to, hey, you know, you may have to do these things in order for, the health department has to prove their sewer system. If they can't find a way to keep their runoff on their property, they're just not going to prove it. So it's kind of like a buyer beware. But if you guys look at this, and I'm not an engineer, but on this plat, on the preliminary plat, there is lines for utility easement and drainage easement. Ingress, egress, and utility easement for the benefit of Lot 3. Ingress, egress, utility easement for the benefit of Lot 2. Septic easement for the benefit of Lot 24. But they do have, at the very bottom of page 1, kind of in the middle under legend, it says drainage and utility easement. So there is a drainage easement on this plat. Now, will it alleviate the problem? I don't think, and the commissioners didn't think we would really know what the problem would be. It depended on what lot was sold, the water level table for that lot compared to another lot, how they deal with the water once it, you know, so there was a lot of things. So the planning commission unanimously approved to send it to you guys. So according to the zoning ordinance, it has to be presented to you on the next stated regular meeting, which is tonight. So you have tonight and up to 30 days from today to make a decision. If you don't make it tonight, you have to make a decision within 30 days of today. That's what the zoning ordinance says. So you either have to approve it or disapprove it. If you disapprove it, then I have to send the Galvins a letter explaining why it was disapproved and go through that process. And if you prove it, they're probably going to go ahead and file the final plat, because this is the preliminary. They'll file a final plat, and then we'll go back through the process with that. Does anybody got questions? Yes.
I guess I just want to point out something that, in regards to your clients, are they having any water issues right now?
Yes, that's why we're here. It's a real issue.
Because their lots are too small.
Because the plat doesn't, because the
They're too
subdivision
small.
doesn't deal with the drainage.
If you'll look at two different documents I've been given, their lots are number 24 and 25, correct?
Yes.
Now on the new paper, their lots 10 and 11. So that tells you the original had 25 lots, so it was heavily. There wasn't enough room to get rid of 25 homes. Now we're at 12. Okay, so they're trying to make accommodations for the water issue. That's where I'm having trouble is, I feel like you're talking when there's 25 homes being put on this, and we're talking about 12.
So, if I may,
But it's more doable with 12 than it is 25.
Can I say one more thing before I sit down? The date on this is March 4, 2022, and I've had a copy of it probably since May or June. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, it's all right.
So in the committee meeting, it was mentioned, and I think I saw something in writing that stated the owners had no intention of ever developing this. Am I remembering correctly?
That's correct.
So I'm also hearing that there's a court order that they begin to build as soon as this is approved. So those two things certainly don't jive. Which is true and which is not.
So, I can address those issues. The first thing I want to say is, I think I agree with everything Mr. Schmitz just said. There is an order stating that after the plat gets approved, they have a time period within to commence construction. It is in phases. I just said generally commence construction. I wasn't trying to mislead anyone, but they are required to commence construction after we force them to move forward with approval of the plat. I agree with the statement generally that if there are less houses, there might be less of a drainage issue. This is the problem with this plat, though. It shouldn't be conjecture, and it doesn't have to be. They have an engineer. They've got Upchurch Group, that's the name on these things, that can address the concerns. You just heard from Mr. Schmitz. You have the power to disapprove this plat and tell them why you didn't approve it. And it's because it doesn't adequately address drainage. There is an easement on there. Does anybody know how that easement is going to really meaningfully impact or address the drainage issue? If the answer to that question is no, then you shouldn't approve it, and you should make them explain how that's going to work. Their intentions are irrelevant. They have requirements pursuant to the court case, and I really don't want to mix that up here, because we're not here to threaten a lawsuit or tell you how it should be. We're here to apply to our county board to request that the Galvins fix a problem with the easement, a problem with the plat, a problem that is causing real flooding on my client's property. I have them here today. They'd be happy to tell you what's going on their property. They need to have this issue addressed by the Galvins before they move forward with the plat. So what we're asking you to do is to either table it till the next meeting, if that's possible within, it looks like Mr. Schmitz is saying it's not possible within the time frame, or disapprove it and ask them to resubmit it with the information to make everybody here feel comfortable that what they're doing is adequate. We can speculate what the change between 25 and 12 lots is, but they have an engineer who can actually tell us and probably put the correct information on the plat so that we can know what they're going to do to manage the water. Your ordinances say specifically that it can be disapproved, that the commission is to consider, and the board too, if it's unsuitable for such use by reason of flooding or improper drainage, objectionable earth and rock formation. We're telling you there's a flooding problem on this property, and we're very concerned that the plat as submitted, the preliminary plat, does not address that issue. So we're asking you to force them to address the issue before we move forward.
I have a question. They're having drainage issues now.
Yes.
Why is it incumbent upon this board to force the Galvins to do something about that flooding issue? Why is that? I'm just trying to understand why that's our problem, and I'm not grasping that.
First of all, it's not your problem.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't a problem. This is a plat before the county board. You're forced to hear me talk tonight because the Galvins have been forced through a legal process to submit a plat. And now you, as a board member, have to consider that plat. That's your duty as a board member, to consider plats that are in front of you. So that's why it's in front of you and why you're having to listen to me blabber on about it tonight.
So if it's just a preliminary plat, can we not approve the preliminary plat and then request that something be addressed in the final plat before we approve the final plat?
No, I think the preliminary plat has to be approved prior to going forward with the final plat.
Right, but I'm saying if we approve the preliminary,
Right.
can we not then request that the final plat address these issues that they have the concerns with?
Yes, the final plat will come before you guys too. Now, it will not go before the commission. The ordinance states it goes, the final plat, there's more detailed in this, and this is online on our website, you know. There's more detail in the final plat, and it will come before you guys. The final plat, the preliminary plat is the first process. So yeah, the final plat has to be approved by the board also before any construction is started out there. You can't move forward till that final plat is approved and passed.
And what and I would add, given the fact that this has been a lawsuit that's been around for a very long time, I think you heard from Mr. Schmitz, I believe his understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, that they're gonna submit the final right the day after you approve the preliminary. So that wouldn't probably be a meaningful safeguard to say, well, we'll just deal with it at the end. And given the way your procedures are, if you disapprove the preliminary now, we're not asking to just disapprove it because they misspelled a word or some minor little thing. There's a major flooding issue. What this says, this is a subdivision that was already platted previously. We went to court, the plat got invalidated, another plat was approved years ago, and they finally just submitted it in October and gave it to Mr. Schmitz in March. This has been going on for a long time. This issue has been around for a long time. The drainage issue has been explained to the Galvins multiple times. They've had this affidavit and they've had other engineering reports for a long time. They're not just going to do it. We're saying the board has an opportunity here to help the public, to help my clients by disapproving the plat or tabling it, what you guys choose how you want to do it, and telling them we have to make sure that the drainage is adequate before we move forward with this.
Can I explain a little bit on the drainage there? If you look at that plat, it runs east and west.
Who are you?
I'm Carla Goodwin, I'm sorry.
My client, Carla.
Yeah. If you look at the plat, there is a private drive that's supposed to run to the east and the west, and that is on the north side of our property. He has already tried to put that in and built that up. So he built that up, so it's now higher than our property. So then it drains to the front, and then in the front of our house is the township ditch. He's went across that and blocked that whole township ditch. So anything that comes down that ditch in front of our house and anything is just blocked all to there. So that's one of the reasons we have the flooding now, is because there's been dirt dumped there over the years. He dumped and built it up, and now it's higher, and he's kind of blocked us in.
If I can, and I don't mean to delay anyone here, but I do want to say we also don't want to confuse the issues. There are drainage issues where we might end up having to sue the Galvins over not doing what they were supposed to do pursuant to a plat. But if the plat doesn't say they don't have to do it, then we've got a much weaker case when we have to go sue them. And it is the county's responsibility to make sure that the plat is in the best interest of the people and that it does what it's supposed to do. And what I think you can read from Mr. Edwards' affidavit is that there are major problems with regard to the way they did the plat when it came to the issue of flooding and the drainage. So we're not asking you to go tell the Galvins that they built their driveway the wrong way. We're asking you to make them explain how this doesn't increase or exacerbate the flooding problems that are already existing on this property and what they're going to do to mitigate those issues moving forward. So we're not asking you to go challenge them. In fact, I think the board, if I were sitting in your shoes, I would be thinking, well, I don't know a whole lot about drainage. It's probably math and all sorts of stuff I don't know. That's why it's the people that are responsible for doing this plat are not even here today to answer your questions. They're not here. And they should be here explaining to you why I'm wrong. They should be telling you why this does adequately address it. And I'm here today telling you it doesn't. It does not address the flooding issue.
I agree with that.
Now, my question is, you said that they built up the area north of your property. Was there anything that said that they could start doing that? Because that's
No, he
what
just did
construction
it.
is,
He
correct?
just did it.
Did that, and that, you said that that interfered with the draining already?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay, and but a court order in 2017, and I'll read the part of it. The defendant, which is the Galvin, shall remove any dirt pile elevations that currently affect the drainage to the existing lots and future lots. Defendant shall further refrain from creating new dirt pile elevations which may affect drainage to current lots or future construction of lots 6 till 10. This is a ruling from 2017.
Those were big dirt piles. Those were just big dirt
Well,
piles.
I don't understand the relevance of that, and that's why I'm a little concerned.
Because she just said they
She said
put
it filled
dirt
it in.
up there.
He
to-
made that, if you look on the plat, it says that supposed to be a private drive there. He made that private drive there, but it's elevated, is what I'm saying.
It says
It
existing
helps block,
township
it
road.
helps
And
block.
we're not, again, though, we're not here asking you to make the Galvins remove their dirt piles. We'll continue suing them in court over those issues. Those aren't county issues in my mind. The issue that is a county board issue is whether or not we're going to approve this preliminary plat and whether or not it deals correctly with the issue of flooding. The plat, not the Galvins. The Galvins will then have to comply with the plat that's approved, and if they don't, we'll sue them. I mean, that's why this is the document that gives us the ability to enforce our rights.
So again, I'll ask, when did you receive this?
We've had, I think I told you, we've had a version of this plat for a significant amount of time. But it's never even been, it was never even submitted to you until October. We didn't know what they were going to submit to you until they finally submitted something in October after they were essentially forced to. So we've been arguing with these things because honestly, before we came here and asked the board to do something about this, we've certainly tried to work in good faith with the Galvins, but like you've heard, all they've done is make roads unilaterally that have increased the problems that are already existing. That is not your problem, though. I mean, and we're not here to ask you to try to fix a legal issue. We're simply here asking you to look at the plat that's in front of you up for potential approval or disapproval and disapprove it until they provide us with some information. And by us, I mean the board, me as well. I'd like to see it too, that this does adequately deal with the issue of flooding. And you just heard from Mr. Schmitz, that was an issue that was expressed with a lot of concern at the planning level. They felt like I guess it'll be an issue that individual homeowners will have to deal with in the future. Why would we do that when we can ask the people who are supposed to plat the subdivision to do it during the process? That's what you're here for, is to make sure that they follow the rules and do what they're supposed to.
All right, so I'm going to put a perspective on this. We are here after one meeting from the Planning Commission, and we're here because of certain things that have happened. And we've been brought to the belief that it went to the Planning Commission because this was something that was agreeable by both parties. And here we are at the board meeting, the full board meeting, and now we have a problem. That strikes me not very well, just in respect to, we've gone through several meetings to get to this point, and you've been aware of what's on this plat for a good amount of time. And I'm not saying we should approve it tonight or disapprove it. And I'm not going to put a word in anybody's ear of whether to vote yes or no tonight. But this has gone through a process, and let your vote be your vote. Martha? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just one question. Was all of this that you're bringing here to us tonight brought to the planning and zoning meeting?
So there was one planning and zoning meeting on December 13th I wasn't aware of it, or I absolutely would have been there. We did ask the state's attorney to provide us with notice when they were going to do this. Nobody did. So you can take that for what it's worth. We did go to the township and express our concerns there as well, because they have a road that's impacted by this plat as well. There was one meeting. This wasn't, by way of you saying there was a process, there was one meeting which we didn't know about. I would have loved to have been there and articulated these same concerns, which various people at the county level have been aware of for as long as we have.
There was a second meeting on December 29th.
So we had the planning commission meeting, which was an actual meeting for the zoning ordinances. And then after that, we had a board affiliated zoning meeting. That way the members of that committee could be apprised of what was going on here. And now we're here. But that zoning committee meeting was for the board members to be aware of what was going on. Martha?
Bill, I have a question. You said we have 30 days from tonight. Is that if we don't take any action tonight? What happens if we...
You'll have to have a special meeting if the next board meeting don't. It says here.
What if we don't pass it? What if we say we want to send it back for addressing of drainage issues?
After a preliminary plat has been approved by the commission, the county board shall accept or reject the plat within 30 days after its next stated regular meeting following the action of the commission. So this is your next stated regular meeting.
So we can reject tonight, and then we don't have to do something within the next 30 days, or we
You
can
can
accept
reject it
tonight?
tonight. You can have a vote on it tonight to accept, reject. You could vote to table it, but you gotta, according to this, you gotta make a decision within 30 days.
But accept or reject tonight meets the requirements of
Yes,
our
then I
ordinance?
just send them
Okay.
a letter
That
saying
was
it's
my
been
question.
rejected and why.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy?
So am I getting the sense that if we were to table this, we'd have the same issue and the same plat, the same stuff come up in the meeting that we take this up? And that leaves the ball in our court. If we reject it, just out and out reject it, does that put the ball back in the other party's court to fix things? Because I wouldn't want to table it just to bring up the same issue and not have anything resolved.
I think that's what he just read out. I think 30 days you send it back. Or if we reject it, sir, you send it back, is that right?
Yeah, let me,
Reject it.
But if we table it, we have to have a special meeting because we have to make a decision, reject or accept within 30 days,
And the 30-day deadline would be when?
before the next county board meeting.
Oh, okay, but when? What
30
date?
days from today.
30 days from today?
Today.
Within 30 days.
Okay, well,
Our next meeting is February 9th.
our next meeting is within, I mean, it's like 29 days, I think, so the next regularly scheduled meeting from tonight, I think, would fall in 30 days.
Was that the right timeline, Bill?
Unless
30
I'm
days from
mistaken.
tonight?
So, Jeremy,
the board shall approve or disapprove, let me find it again, sorry.
if
After
we,
the preliminary plat has been approved by the commission, which was December 13th, the county board shall accept or reject the plat within 30 days after its next stated regular meeting following the action of the commission. I'm not a lawyer, but the way I read it, you have 30 days today and the next 29 days to make a decision, accept or reject. It's not gonna, I can't send it to them now. The plat you have is the plat you have to accept or reject. If you table it, I don't send them a letter saying, we need a change. This is the plat you're voting on. This is what was submitted.
What was the consensus of the committee meeting for this?
the board committee was to send it to the full board. In respect, I mean, so it was just it was a committee action to send this to the full board. There's no reason, I mean, the board committee had really no option but to send it to the full board, because the planning commission, that was their job, was to send it to the full board. We just, I guess, arbitrarily made a motion to do it, but, so the planning the zoning meeting really had no bearing on this agenda item. It was from the planning commission that this agenda item arose.
It was coming to this full board whether the zoning committee met or not. They just kind of was a formality and get together and get the information to some of the county board members so they kind of have an understanding to maybe help explain it as we go through it.
Right, but it sounds like that was not.
The planning commissioners unanimously voted to send it to you guys on December 13th. And water table was discussed.
But there's no answer right now. I mean, we're hearing from both sides. That committee should have said, hey, we have this issue, fix it before you go to the board meeting. I mean,
If I recall, in that, because I was in that planning commission meeting as public, it was understood that this plat is agreed to by both parties to move forward. That was what was the sentiment of that meeting. I had more.
It's my understanding through the meetings we had, there's already a water problem there, always has been. You got two houses that have a problem. Is the ground next to it going to make it worse? Don't know. But we don't alter the elevation. The elevation is what it is, and then those that build around it will have to address it. They have to have their own plan for where they build. That'll have to address their own individual drainage.
yeah, but at the expense of these individuals, if they, to find out that there's a flooding issue, they have to have their houses flooded out.
Well, they already have a water table problem, and as long as the easement is not making it worse, they're still gonna have what they have. Nobody has to build around it. It's whoever buys the property and says, yeah, I'm gonna take this chance. Then, as they have, as the owners of the property next door, they'll have to fight with them as to whether there's more problems. But we can't decide on whether there's gonna be a problem or not.
No, and that brings me to the point, I'm gonna take John's question first.
Did I understand you, Bill, saying if we reject the plat tonight, we have to give them a reason why we reject it? So we could reject it tonight because the plat does not provide adequate drainage. Would that be a correct statement? That we could do?
Whatever your justification is, I would have to send them a letter telling them that it was rejected and the justification of it. Now you put me on the spot where that's at in here.
Can I say one thing? I don't want to interrupt. I wouldn't even say that it doesn't do it. It just doesn't provide the requisite information on there to tell you what they're going to do with regard to drainage. So it could, I'm not here suggesting that you guys just deny it and say, we'll never approve it. That's not what we're asking. We're asking that you deny it and you ask them to come back and explain why we're wrong. That's it. Maybe we're wrong. We don't have the information because it's not on there. And was it Bill, to the point that he made earlier, I have a concern about that way of thinking, that it's the landowner's problem to deal with. No, that's why this plat is in front of you guys. It's the developer of the subdivision's responsibility to make sure that when they get their subdivision platted, that they adequately deal with drainage issues. It's not your responsibility. I'm not saying we have to sit here, we shouldn't be sitting here speculating how it's going to be dealt with. It should have been provided for in the plat so that we don't have to sit here and ask these questions. Does that make sense? I'm not asking anybody to do anything inherently unreasonable here. We just want to make sure that that issue is dealt with on the plat, because one thing to remember here, I have 3 human beings who have to live on that land with flooding, and the crux of these, 15 years of lawsuits is that the original plat wasn't correct, and that's why, there was a plat before. It was wrong, it was rejected by the court, and the Galvins were told to go back and do something different, and they're still not doing it right. So it's very possible that they continue to be dilatory and not build, but that's not your problem. We're simply asking that the board do its duty and make sure that this adequately addresses the issues, because this is the time when we have to make sure that they get it right. This is that time. And if we don't do it and leave it up to future homeowners, it's just going to keep kicking the can down the road, when this is the opportunity to make sure that they provide everyone with a plan that adequately explains how they're going to deal with these real issues that are affecting my clients.
Jeremy. Hi. So you alluded to the fact that this has been going on for a long, long time. And we mentioned that in our committee meeting. Okay. I have one very important question. When this drainage issue is resolved, is there going to be another problem? And then is there going to be another problem? And then is there going to be another problem? Thus keeping the county involved in this for another 17 years?
So I'm happy to address that issue. I think it's a good question. We're not involving you in anything. You're not, I'm here addressing a county issue. No one's here threatening to drag you into court. We're asking you to do what you're supposed to do, which is review a plat. That's all we're asking to have done here. Can I tell you what the Galvins will or won't do moving forward? No. Chances are high they'll have a problem, but I don't think it's going to be a county problem. I think it's going to be a problem that they create. So we're not bringing the county into this in any way, except to come here and address issues with a plat that's up for a vote before the county. So no one's threatening or trying to keep you involved in litigation. If you want my real answer to that, and this is my opinion, now having been in this case for about a year, the county was involved in the lawsuit because the Galvins were using the county approval of the plat before they submit it as an excuse for their delay. That's why I filed a motion with the court compelling them to file a plat. And Mr. Schmitz isn't wrong. And I can see the confusion about how you might think that it was agreed to. No, what I did in this case was simply require the Galvins and, to an extent, the county to get back into their own lanes. The county's lane is to make sure that when it has a plat in front of it, that plat is in the best interest of the public. That's it. In my mind, that's what your job is. Your job is not to get involved in whether or not the Galvins are obstructing a roadway. That's for the sheriff and the police and the courts to deal with.
And at the same time, I feel this whole conversation is, this conversation, I feel like it's one-sided in respect that we should have both parties here to have this conversation.
Why weren't they here?
Why they weren't here, I don't know. What we're having right now is not a conversation for this boardroom.
Correct. Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at a fieldwork date here of April of 2016, production date of March 2022. Clearly, time is not of the essence with this construction. My recommendation is that we vote this plat down, send back the one rejection that is an obvious concern, and allow the party that wants to build to resubmit so that we don't continue deliberating on this any further.
Lori.
You offered the code, the state statute or whatever, but you never gave it. Would you please read that off?
Oh, yeah. Which one are you talking about?
The one that states clearly that the
Flooding
water
is-
issues, it mentioned the health department.
Oh, yeah, that would
You
be,
mentioned it at the beginning, and then again later.
So I'm actually looking at the ordinance itself. It's page 75, Title 2, Article 2, 2A. So the Title 2, Article 2, Section 2A.
And what ordinance is that?
That's your zoning ordinance of Shelby County 2005. If you want me, I can give you this copy. It's a little worn, but I'm happy to give it to you if you want.
I just like to know what the law states.
Yeah, I read directly from it. It says, and this is saying that the no land shall be subdivided for use unless ... There's a bunch of stuff that's not relevant. If such land is considered by the commission to be unsuitable for such use by reason of flooding or improper drainage.
Thank you.
So, and I do want to just make clear to everyone, I'm not criticizing the way that the county has done this. I think Mr. Schmitz did his job and did an excellent job. The issues were considered and discussed, although I wasn't there for the meeting. I know that they discussed and had concerns about drainage and the water table. And I think also there's an element here where his hands might be tied because the plat itself, when the commission is looking at it, from my understanding and my opinion, they're looking at, does it have most of these things? There's also in that same section elements that the preliminary plat must have. I don't disagree that it doesn't have those elements. What I'm disagreeing with is there was a concern raised about flooding. My clients are here tonight to tell you there's a concern, and it's the Galvin's responsibility as a developer to deal with that issue.
Zion, did you make a motion?
I can't. There's a motion on the floor to accept it. That's not what my recommendation is.
Who made the motion in the second? I made the motion, or I seconded?
If we simply,
You made the motion to approve it, he seconded it.
With permission of the second, I would like to withdraw my motion.
That'd be fine.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to reject the plat.
Cody? After all discussion, any other discussion? Hearing none, Don.
What Mr. Smith said, we have to put a reason why we reject it.
I'll have to have a written reason to send to the Galvin why we rejected your plat.
So, the preliminary plat needs to address surface drainage, correct?
Stormwater runoff and drainage.
Stormwater runoff and drainage. That's what the preliminary plat needs to address.
Mr. Chairman, we just want to make sure that by rejecting a plat, that we don't get into another lawsuit with the Galvins. You're not going to get it, we need to get them to deal with it.
I think we have a suitable reason if the plat doesn't describe, and we have neither the engineer or their attorneys here, that, if the engineer or their attorneys can come up with suitable description of drainage, we come back in 30 days and we've got it. Well, do we have to go back to the planning commission?
It doesn't, and it really doesn't even talk about whether you guys have to accept or reject it, but it does. It says the commission shall review the preliminary plat and give its approval or return the plat to the applicant with a written statement setting forth the reason for disapproval and specifying the particular aspects in which the plat fails to conform to the county ordinances, including the official plan.
That's the commission of the board.
It's the commission. There's nothing in here. It just says you guys have 30 days to approve or accept or reject. And the next regular 30 days following the next. But I'd have to dig in here, but I've been kind of scouring here. It doesn't really say what happens if the county board, but I imagine it would probably be about the same, that we'd have to send them a letter telling them why it was rejected, and give them a detail of what part of this. I mean, I can cite the part that he read, that it doesn't conform to that, send them a letter, doesn't really say that in here, but I figure if it's good enough for the planning commission, it should be good enough for the county board, and then they would either, once somebody submits a plat, I can't tell them this plat's wrong. I mean, that's up to the planning commission and you guys. I just have to follow the rules of setting up the meetings and going forward with it. The planning commission met, Mr. Orman was there, they discussed it, they discussed water tables. They kind of felt, I think that it, like I said, it was kind of, and the health department was there, and they're basically like, well, they could keep the water on their own on that acre, and not, we wasn't there to address their water issues. We were there to address any future water issues. I think the commission, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, was thinking that they should already be addressing that on their own, not now. I mean, so the commission passed it unanimously. I can't go back and change it. We followed the Open Meetings Act. It was posted. I mean, both parties had access to come to the meeting.
All right.
Okay.
Steve, do you have anything further to this? Brief, please, Steve.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have to understand when you send that back about they're lacking a plan to address drainage, stormwater, and runoff, then someone's going to have to evaluate the next, when they make the correction, someone's going to have to evaluate that and see if it's going to be acceptable. Then my recommendation was send it back to the planning commission and let them look at and determine that, then bring it back. Either if you have to have a special meeting or something, but they would be more qualified to look at it. And you have a meeting, unless you want to use your other committee to address that. So I would say it's been rejected, go back to the planning commission, let them look at the changes that's being submitted with the plan, with the drainage plan, and then let them decide if that's adequate to bring back here at the next meeting.
Yeah. Well, if they reject it, I have to, the subdividers have to have a chance to fix it before, I'm not gonna take the exact same plat back to the planning commission.
Well, they're going to have a plan that they're going to develop. Calvin's going to have to present a plan to address the drainage. You send a letter that's rejected by the county board.
Right, and we would start back over with the planning commission.
Matt?
Mr. Chairman, I think it's a reasonable course of action to reject it, send it back to the planning as they discussed. And then since we're not a court, then if the adequacy of the new description of the engineering and how they're going to fix it is not adequate in the eyes of the other party, that will have to go to court. Because if it satisfies engineering requirements on the new plat, we really don't have a choice other than, like Mr. Schmidt has said, to push it through. And then if there's litigation, there's litigation.
Yeah, that's exactly my.
Because we're not a court.
What you're looking right now is.
If the plat fulfills engineering requirements, the new one with the new details, and it goes through, and they find it inadequate, then it's at that point that they have to do litigation, because we're not a court.
Motion on the floor to reject the plat. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to highway engineer's report.
Good evening, guys. I've got quite a few things that we need to pass through or talk about. First one is a resolution to award sealed coat materials, which is the chips and oil and chips that we do for our county MFD maintenance. We got some good bids on rock. It's up about $1 a ton from last year, so went up less than we kind of expected. So.
We're looking for a motion to approve
can, yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
wouldn't that be normal?
There's a significant amount of them.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least just the width,
There's 10
The
groups.
bid
8 of the 10 groups were going to be awarded to Nokomis Quarry. 1 is going to Mid-Illinois Quarry, and 1 is going to Coors Enterprises. I can give you the prices. So Group 1 goes to Nokomis Quarry for 600 tons, and that's at $15.75 a ton. Group 2 also goes to Nokomis Quarry for 600 tons of CA15 at $15.50 a ton. Group 3 goes to Mid-Illinois Quarry for 600 ton. It's a CA14, 15, and 16 crushed stone at $14.80 a ton. These groups are just split up just based on where it's going to be stockpiled throughout the county, based on what roads they're close to that we're going to be oil and shipping. So that's why they're split up into so many small groups. But yeah, an average of $15.50 to $15.75 a ton is what kind of comes out to.
That's just the rock cost.
That's just the rock cost.
That's FOB.
Yeah, we do our own. Besides, there's one stockpile that we always hire up to bring to Hartman Corner, and Coors Enterprises got that. They purchase it and bring it to that stockpile. But we do all the rest. We go pick it up before we can stockpile.
I understand there's a quarry that didn't give out any bids because they were holding all of their rock for windmills.
Yeah, Hanson Aggregates, we always get bids from them, and we didn't get anything this year. Yep, and we speculate that's why. Yeah, they're preparing for other projects, yeah, including the wind farms.
I got one more thought.
Yeah.
Do you know what area the wind farms are going up in?
I don't necessarily know. Couldn't tell you.
Any other questions?
They're usually up north.
I don't need a roll call for this.
Spending money.
Okay. Yep, accept the bid. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bang. Yes. Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yep.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis. Julie Edwards. Martha Burghaber.
yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morris.
Yes.
Laura Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orban.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yeah.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, the next is a resolution to award culvert bids, metal culverts that we bid out. And there's only 3 groups, so I could easily go through these real quick. Group 1 is for bands and spiral aluminized, and it's going to Contec Engineered, and it's for $44,460 for the entire group. Group 2 is riveted aluminized metal culverts, also going Contec Engineered for $60,403.40. And then Group 3, poly-coated, goes to Metal Culverts Incorporated for $7,107.
Motion to accept the culvert bids. Martha, seconded by Brent. Any discussion on this? How many culverts was that roughly altogether for all those culverts?
I don't have that necessarily with me, but it's a lot of different sizes. A lot of the 50/50s that you guys passed this last fall has just been adding to the list. So quite a few large pipe, and then just a whole variety that we think we might need in the next year.
Any other questions? Roll call on the culverts.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bang.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Burghaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhaw.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morris.
Yes.
Laura Nelson. David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next up, I've got an engineering agreement with HLR for preliminary engineering and final design for Country Club Road project on County Highway 5, Phase 2. The first phase is what we paved this summer. And This agreement is for up to $86,000. And we have $150,000 of Rebuild Illinois money that's already been put aside by you guys, approved by you guys back in June of '21, just anticipating this design work is eventually going to be needed. And the project is being paid for with federal grants that do have a time limit. We gave them kind of a calendar estimate of when it's to be done as well. So,
What is phase two?
when is it going to be?
What is it? Like, where is it going to and from?
Okay, so if you're familiar with the first phase that we did, starting at North Broadway and North 12th, it went 2.5 miles up, and then we're going to pick up where that stopped, and we're going to hopefully make to Coon Creek Road.
Thank you.
Accept the motion to accept the agreement with HLR for engineering and final design of Country Club Road project, County Highway 5 Phase 2. I've got Tim, sorry. Tim on the motion, second by Jody. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yes.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis.
Yep.
Julie Edwards.
Yeah.
Mark Haber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Maynell.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson. David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Mormon.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next, I've got a 50/50 petition from Dry Point Township to replace a 42-inch by 32-foot-long corrugated metal pipe with same size pipe for $2,759, and that will be shared 50/50 Dry Point Township and the county.
Motion to approve the Dry Point Township petition. Charlie, on the motion, seconded by Clay. Need your name tag back. Discussion?
I have a question, just for those of us that are new and might not understand this. Why can we not vote on all of these individually in one group, and they have to be individually roll call?
We could do it all together. It would have to be unanimous if there was. I don't see why not.
I was just curious, in the interest of calling 22 names 8 times.
So we've got, on their agenda, we've got Dry Point Township, replace 42 by 32 CMP at $27.59. We've got Cold Spring Township, to replace a 48 by 50 CMP at $73.12. Pickaway Township, replace a 54 by 45 CMP at $13,691. Prairie Township, replace 3 by 3 box culvert with a 42 by 30 CMP at $49.06. Entertain a motion to accept those 4 listed 50/50 petitions. Motion by Matt, second by Sonny. Discussion. I do have a question on these.
Where's the money coming out of? Has that already been budgeted?
Yeah, I believe it's already in our budget. We have a certain fund that we keep, that we keep really just mostly for culverts and any sort of other maintenance items like that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And Reed has clarified before, for those of you who've not heard this, that the 50/50 means 50% of it's paid by the county, 50% of it's paid by the township. So that number that you see, the county's paying half of that number. So that helps us review that.
And can you quickly just illustrate why there's, 2759, 7312, and 13691? Those are a fair amount of difference. Does it have to do with the length of the pipe, the excavation to remove the old structure,
Yep.
so
Yep.
all these come into play?
Yeah, so that cost is the labor, materials, and also the material of the pipe is the main cost is the pipe, yeah. But depends on how deep down that culvert is, how much excavation we have to do, and how much material it takes to fill it back in, and all play a role. And this is just an estimate that we come up with to give our best guess of what it's going to cost.
Any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, roll call please on these four petitions.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain. Yes. Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis. Julie Edwards. Mark Fernhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Norman.
Yes.
Sidney Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff.
Yep.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Any updates?
Yes, I do. I felt that you guys need to know this, that I just found out last week that IDOT is going to hold back any federally funded bridge projects until we have a professional engineer in the office as county engineer. There's a report that once all the design is completely done on a federal bridge, it goes into a project development report, and that gets approved by the state. And then from there on, you're good to go, build it. They're not going to be approving those project development reports without professional engineer in the office. So we can get them designed, continue design, and set them on the shelf until we have somebody in the office, and they'll begin to approve them.
And you said that was any federally funded bridge projects, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Which is pretty much all of them, isn't it?
Well, no, we have Rebuild Illinois money that we really need to spend in the next few years because it'll expire. It has to be obligated by 2025. So we do have several projects that are using state funds that we've moved around to hopefully let this summer and still have a couple of improvements going on this upcoming year.
Anything, any other updates? Any other updates?
No, that was pretty much it. And we've got a new committee that, has got a really good attitude, and we're widening the search, it seems, to try and find somebody.
Very good. Any other questions?
Just a comment, we had our meeting the other day, and we will not get any grant money until we get a official. So it's very important that we get an engineer. We need to come up with some incentives or something. I know we can't mess with the pay package, but we can mess with the incentive package to try to get somebody in here, because we're going to lose out a lot of money. We're going to be hurting in a couple of years if we don't get something done real soon.
Any other questions, comments? Before we dismiss Reed and move on?
Yeah, I got one.
Mark?
Reed, have you by chance heard of the surrounding counties around us also looking for engineers?
They are, yeah. Moultrie County's looking. Where we have it posted on the Illinois Association of County Engineers website, we have the job description and a posting. They have a classified section, and there's 6 other counties just in Illinois that are also searching, or we might be the 6th on that website. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you, Reed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Reed.
That's all.
Yep, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Bobby, can we take a 5-minute break?
I think we're gonna be done with this pretty short. We're at 9 o'clock already. I think we can move. So, moving on to item 9 after we took item 8 to closed session. Item 9 is discussion vote of approval of settlement ILRB case SRC 22045. That settlement is settlement agreement that we are proposing as the board. And there are 3 parties to it. There's the board, the treasurer, and the union. So all 3 of us have to agree that this is going to be the settlement. In the case of SRC 2245, in full and complete resolution of the above named case, the American Federation of State, County and Municipal Employees, Council 31, and ASME Local 3323, collectively, and County of Shelby and Shelby County Treasurer collectively, agrees as follows. Notwithstanding her statutory authority to reject the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the Shelby County Treasurer, by virtue of this settlement, agrees, and she shall, and all deputies and employees within her office are bound to the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, attached hereto and incorporated herein as Exhibit A. Within 7 days of the union and the respondents executing this settlement agreement, the union shall withdraw its charge of the ILRB case number SRC 22-45, and the parties shall ask the ILRB to terminate this case. The parties acknowledge that this document contains the entirety of their agreement and it constitutes a full settlement of all claims arising out of the subject matter. I make a motion that we accept that settlement agreement.
Second.
Second by Jamie. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. I will print this off, scan it, send it to the clerk for record, and then it will be forwarded on to our attorney, and they will handle it from here. Number 10 is discussion and vote to approve Benford Brown Associates CPA to conduct the FY22 audit at a revised rate of 68.5 from 63.3, which was what their bid was last year. It's an 8% inflation increase. I entertain a motion to approve. Jeremy makes a motion to approve Benford Brown CPA to conduct the FY22 annual audit. Second by Lori. Any discussion, questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this in writing somewhere that we didn't get a copy of?
Yeah, I have it in my emails. I just have not.
It's an attachment to the.
I didn't see it. Okay.
Any other questions?
You'll forward that as well?
Yeah.
Part of the board record? Thank you.
Hearing what's that? Hearing no further comment, roll call please on Benford Brown.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bain.
I'm going to abstain.
Cody Brands.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
No.
Charles Davis.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber.
Yes.
Clay Hardy.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Tad Mayhall.
Yes.
Heath McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse.
Yes.
Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Orman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff.
Yes.
Don Tate.
Yes.
Brent Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes, 20 ayes, 1 abstain, Teresa Bain, and 1 nay, Carol Cole.
Okay, motion carried. Item 11, discussion and vote to approve county treasurer to be administrator to the U.S. Treasury portal to all funds accessible through the U.S. Treasury portal. I make a motion that we approve the county treasurer to be the administrator of the U.S. portal.
I'll second.
Seconded by Sonny. Any discussion, questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Who's this person now? If she's not doing it now.
There is no one now.
There's been information put into it.
That was done by Nicole, correct?
I don't know.
There's never been anybody board appointed to the actual treasury portal. This has to do with both ARPA and the LATCF funds that are through the treasury portal. We have never taken the time to actually officially approve somebody to be assigned to that portal. She's pulled funds through prior to, under board direction, but this actual language has never been approved.
It was recommended by Bellwether as well, but we.
It was recommended by Bellwether that you officiate her as officiate the treasurer as the administrator to the portal.
I have another question then. I don't have any problem with it, but is that the only person that has the authority to input information into the portal?
Yes.
Okay, what happens if she's not here, something happens to her if somebody's not cross-trained on this?
This is the county treasurer. So the treasurer and her officers,
So somebody else will be cross-trained
they
in that
will,
office?
they would surely be cross-trained. And that's the duty of the treasurer. is to train
That's
her
my
deputies
concern, that
in
somebody
what's
else
going on.
doesn't know how to do this.
Right. Right. It's not her office and functions are not secret, I wouldn't think.
No, I'm not saying they are, I'm just asking if somebody else would be trained, so that if she wouldn't be there, if something would happen, if something needed to be done, somebody else would know how to do this.
Right,
Task.
and Bellwether, as the consultant on this, would know how to mitigate the situation if we ran into an emergency of sorts. But, no, this is just an officiation of the portal. Any other questions?
Bobby?
Yes.
Okay, so this has to do with the $100,000 grant too, that we have not applied for yet?
That's
Is that
correct.
correct? And will this get done if we approve?
You bet.
It will get done immediately?
Yes.
And then I have another question. It will be done through Bellwether, like Erica will contact Bellwether, because that's why we're paying them $5,000 to get this $100,000,
I can
right?
speak to a little bit, because I've seen the email traffic up to this point, and yes.
Yeah, I mean,
She is in cooperation with them. This was their recommendation to make this official,
Yes.
and she could do it on 30th before midnight on 31st.
but hopefully we get it done before the 31st, because you never know if, I mean, you know, there's always glitches and stuff.
Well, their guidance simply says that at this point here, it won't be 2 installments, we'll actually get everything up front. So, but I've been assured it'll be taken care of this weekend.
Because the information's already in the portal.
Right.
It is a matter of turning the switch, and there it is. It's the best I can say it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion and vote to approve the appointment of the county treasurer as the administrator to the GATA portal, as administrator to the GATA portal. Now, this is different.
Okay.
GATA is government and grant and something.
Transparency Act.
Yes, there we go.
Grant Accountability Transparency Act.
Thank you. Grant Accountability Transparency Act. This administrative position basically is a position that relays our interaction with grants is transparent, and it is filed with the state as a report every year. And I do believe that the previous GATA administrator was the state's attorney, which is resigning in 15, 16, where we're at, 12, in 3 weeks. So we need to appoint the county treasurer as administrator of the GATA portal.
I'll make that motion.
Martha makes a motion, Sonny seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
I
Sorry.
got the same question, will somebody be cross-trained again, if it's gonna be in that office, so somebody else might know how to do this if something were to happen?
Right, so what's neat about this one is, when we go back to when the previous GATA administrator was there and then resigned, there wasn't any cross-training. However, there was the ability to get a hold of the GATA organization in Springfield, and they were able to get us up to speed with what was going on. So even if there was a glitch in this situation, there are people in Springfield that can help with that. But yes, the GATA, and actually, Steve, can you speak to this? Are you an administrator of the GATA portal also, or are you?
For the health department.
Yeah, so Steve has access to his portal, and then there's a few other portals. But anyway.
Airport, highway department.
Yep.
And it's important because that's, if you don't get that done, you're not gonna get your grants.
Yeah. So there are actually a few administrators to the portal. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion and vote to approve discussion and vote to approve the appointment of the county treasurer as the point of contact in the grant finder program administered through IACBM. Sonny, would you like to take the floor on this?
Yeah, so through some of the emails through the Illinois Association of County Board Members that we've been receiving, I was made aware that there is a grant finder program that is afforded to us free of charge through them. I reached out to Kelly, who is at the IACBM, to find out who our point of contact was. She informed me that we didn't have one, and this is simply setting up someone in the county that has an office to be the point of contact. They will set, Erica has agreed to do that in the treasurer's office. They will establish her with a username and password, and then if other people would like access to that, the clerk's office, Jessica, can get access to that. And the grant finder program is essentially a warehouse of grants. The biggest problem with getting grants is finding grants, and this will help us to locate them. That's all this is. It has nothing to do with limiting the health department from continuing their grant process. It has nothing to do with any current grant processes. It won't change anything. This will be an additional tool to the county. I would make a motion that we appoint Erica as that point of contact.
Motion by Sonny, second by Heath. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have one. I'm just curious. I mean, our treasurer seems like she's pretty busy and we keep stacking more and more things. Is she going to be able to handle all this extra stuff?
So the GATA portal, she's already fluent on. The administrator to the US portal is something she's already doing. And then this is nothing more than a
Search engine of grants.
Search engine.
yeah.
Google for grants.
I just hate to pile too much on one
I was
person.
gonna say, she's okay with it?
Yeah, a lot of she's already officiating.
One group of people, yeah.
Yeah, we're just officiating the processes that
Okay.
are actually already happening.
Okay.
I'd like to just add to that too, though, Bobby, that if you look at all these things that have to do with grants, they have to do with money. The treasurer's department handles the money and the funds of the county, so it would make sense that that would be the department, regardless of who's filling that position, to take on these roles.
For example, the sheriff's office would be privy to a username and password. Once Erica gives him a username and password, her job is done. She doesn't have any more involvement in it. So I believe this is going to be a minimal involvement situation, but something that could potentially really help the county.
I have a question too. It's just the finder of the grants, and if you find something, then does somebody else have to write it, or is?
So that's another point of discussion that I was going to follow up with after the vote. Because it's not a grant writing program, it's a grant finder. Yeah. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we are at item 14. Sheriff, would you like to take the floor?
We're just asking to surplus some firearms that we've replaced that we're no longer using and have no need for at this point.
And by looking at the list, it is surplus firearms. There's no question in my mind that it is not seized firearms.
Correct.
So, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Martha makes a motion to vote on for the resolution for disposal of surplus firearms by the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Cody seconds. Any discussion, questions, Don?
No question. I'm going to second it.
Oh, sorry, I had Cody in the file. Lori?
When we had the law enforcement, the public safety committee meeting, we discussed the issues of how they would be sold, and typically as a lot, you sell them to other specific buyers. They're not typically available to an individual, but with the new, that was a week ago, but since the new law has been passed, are we looking at any kind of conflict?
Well, I think that was addressed in public body comment, that,
But is it still going to be available? I mean, is it only going to be available assume that's on the
Some
bid.
can't now, so.
Okay, okay.
That's a very good qualifier.
It's on the, I guess it's on the surplus side, an auction side, you said?
Well, we put it in the bid notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Moving forward. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 15, discussion and vote on resolution to declare the Auto Clear Model 5333-160 X-ray machine as surplus equipment and allow for disposal by the county sheriff, either by sale, scrap, or disposal. Motion made by Mark, seconded by Charlie. Any questions, comments? Just to be clear, this is the X-ray machine that we have recently replaced, I do believe, down at the entrance of the courthouse. If you notice, there's a new machine sitting there. We need to just put in the old machine. So, any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion and vote on approval of ordinance to implement a 6-month moratorium on issuance of special use permits for underground carbon sequestration facilities in Shelby County. Jeremy, would you like to take the floor?
I'll make the motion that we approve first.
Second by Mark. So I have a motion on the floor by Jeremy, seconded by Mark. Jeremy, on the floor.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have a question as much as I'd like to make an amendment to include, paragraph to include testing as a part of the ordinance.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have
Do we
a
have to
motion,
second that?
I have a motion to include testing.
Moratorium on testing.
Yes, paragraph A, add testing to paragraph A.
Add testing to paragraph A. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Martha. Okay, now we're discussing the amendment. Any discussion? The amendment is to add testing to paragraph A. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now, we will vote on the amended version of the resolution, or I'm sorry, the ordinance to implement a moratorium to include testing in paragraph A. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we have any policeability on this? Or do we issue building permits to lay pipe of this nature through the county? I mean, we can pass a moratorium, but how are we gonna stop it?
So if there's gonna be a trans-county pipeline, because it has to come in somewhere, it has to come in somehow. That means they'd have to have some sort of EPA permit, and I'm sure they'd have to have some sort of public notice that they're putting in infrastructure across multiple landowners, and possibly counties.
How do we stop them? We don't have governance over the EPA.
I'm just
have
saying,
governance over my personal ground. How do we stop them?
I think at the end of the day, the intent is to at least pause for 6 months to give the opportunity for more research on the topic itself, expecting that if you're going to do work, you need a permit to do work.
so there isn't a permittable process right now. So we need to have a permittable process. So this is putting the stopgap in so we can develop the permit process. How you police it, I have no idea. It's got to be, I mean, it has to roll through zoning and everything that Bill does. And I would assume, assuming it does, but I would assume that it would fall into the same aspects of wind and solar ordinances as well. If I said anything wrong about that, please speak up. Hearing none. All in favor of the ordinance to implement a 6-month moratorium, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Sunny's nay vote, motion carries. Item 17, discussion and vote to have the county board chairman determine how Shelby County can terminate the Axon body camera contract approved on August 12th of 2021 and the cost involved to terminate this contract. Somebody like to make the motion?
I'll make that motion.
Martha makes the motion, Jeremy seconds. Any discussion?
Yeah, what's this about?
Okay, so about a year and a half ago, the county board approved a contract with Axon, and that company is a technology company for body cams for the police officers, their sheriff's deputies, and they have the software, the hardware that goes with it. It was an $87,000 contract over 5 years, so it'd be $17,000, I do believe, per year. We have not activated these body cameras, to the best of my knowledge, and I think the sheriff did reference that possibly he activated one of them or has messed with one of them to see how they act, but has never put them in duty. Without, from what I'm understanding, without affirmative action as of current, that we are going to be required to have these body cameras, we are going to terminate this contract, and if we have to do something in 25, we'll revisit it.
So we don't have body cameras right now?
We have, do we have them in possession? We have boxes of equipment, don't we?
I thought it was
Sonny. Sonny. Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie.
The other issue we had with the contract was they left out a lot of the, so for storage of this information, because everything that's recorded on these body cameras, they run for the entire shift, you know, any time the officer's involved in something, that camera's on. So whether anything's happened or not, we have to store all of that. And according to that contract, there is no specifics on how much that is going to cost or anything like that. Can we be charged for it? There was a lot of vagueness in the contract, was one of the reasons why we come up with this decision to terminate as well.
Well, to clarify, it's not a decision to terminate, it's a decision to see that terminate.
Yeah.
We're actually voting on.
Is it gonna cost us more to terminate than it is to go ahead?
Yeah, it's a stop loss evaluation, if you will. Yeah, the agenda item is to have the county board chair determine how Shelby County can terminate. I do have two correspondences to this, and one of them is an email basically saying that the quote, our current quote, has expired, which is kind of a confusing term because when I look at this, it's a contractual agreement. But so the email says one thing, and this was, I do believe, an email, it was a correspondence between the sheriff and Axon. And then this other is in their agreement, 16.2 in the terms of the agreement, by agency, if sufficient funds are not appropriate or otherwise legally available to pay the fees, the agency may terminate this agreement. And it says the agency will deliver notice of termination of this section as soon as reasonably practicable. To my knowledge, these actually haven't been apportioned for, and then we've got notice or recognition of the quote has expired. So I'm looking at two pieces of paper here that could leverage the termination of this.
We brought this up in a public safety meeting. These cameras were ordered by a previous board, by a previous sheriff. The money was never allocated, it was never budgeted. They sent the cameras anyway. They sat in the sheriff's office for a year and a half. My point, the Public Safety Committee's point is, we believe it's the board chairman's responsibility to determine if we can exit the contract. The sheriff is disinclined to activate the cameras at this time, and the requirement does not come to us until 2025. It's an unfunded mandate that we don't know for sure if it's even going to stay here, and the sheriff really doesn't want them. If we can't get out of the contract, then at least we understand that, and then we need to pay for it, because we have something that is sitting there that is not ours, we've not paid for. As Grandpa said, we need to fish or cut bait. And I would like for him to find out if we can get out of the contract agreeably. If we cannot get out of it agreeably, then we're going to have to figure out how to pay for them.
Pay for them and still use them, or?
Yes. If we're paying for them, we're going to use them.
I think they probably, yeah.
You want to address the other issue that comes up with these body cams going forward, if we have to do it at 25, or if we use them, the FOIA problems, technician you might even have to have?
So, yes, to that point, we aren't currently staffed sufficiently to review FOIA-able material. So, as I believe it said, it's 1 minute per 12.
For every 8-minute FOIA, it will take 8 minutes to retrieve.
8 hours.
8 hours.
So it's minute per hour.
No, it's minute per minute. For every minute requested, it'll take a minute. It will take 8 minutes to retrieve.
Okay. So, in a roundabout way, if 1 minute is asked for of time, it'll take 8 minutes to process that, because they have to go find that timestamp and then redact all parties not directly involved. If it was something that happened on the courthouse lawn and there was a big crowd, they'd have to spend time redacting all that, evaluating that, and then of course it would take somebody to do that would be trained in the software. And I do believe one of understanding is there are bigger PDs in the cities that are using it, and it takes almost 2 full-time staff to get it there, to get the end result accomplished.
Which we also don't have budgeted for.
Which that staff we don't have budgeted for, and so there's the proverbial cart before the horse here. So that's why appropriations before obligations are important. Or
To the point though, if the Safety Act does keep that requirement intact for the county of our size, it would give us time to renegotiate prices, maybe get a lower bid from a different company, and then properly allocate budgeting of the person running the FOIA situation and redacting, and then purchasing the data to store it and the devices. Actually do it in order to make sure that we are properly suited for it.
any other discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I will get on this as physically fast as possible. Item 18 is committee reports. Any of the committee chairs like to report, or anybody like to do anything? The farm committee has not met yet. I'm just going to throw this out there. We're going to need to meet in the near future for the committee that's present today. In the near future, I'm going to put out a notice that we'll have to have a farm committee meeting in the near future. Mark?
In the finance committee, in review of the bills, we have one claim that we have not approved, that we were asked to. And obviously, I'm going to refer to a couple people, but Sonny, if you would speak about.
So we received 2 invoices from 2 different ambulance services. We were unable to find any sort of contract that bound the county to pay any of the invoices that we received. One of those was from Abbott. One of those was from Echo. Echo sent us a bill for an entire year. Inside of the pamphlet, there were there was a letter dated 1991, I believe, that stated we were not to pay any bills past 60 days. I cannot look at a letter as official board action. We have no guidance whether or not we should allow ambulance companies to wait for an entire year to bill us. We have no guidance on having any sort of contract with any of the ambulance services. We simply have a situation where we are allowing any company that wants to bill us, and we pay it with no prior agreement or arrangement. With that in mind, I'm not comfortable submitting and paying that bill.
I believe Don also got a conversation.
I got a letter from Welton that asked about why we didn't pay it, and I responded that it had been discussed and it would be discussed tonight and would be reviewed, and we'll figure out what we're going to do and maybe approve it at the next meeting.
Who was that?
What was it? Yeah.
Doug Wilkes.
Well, it's
He used to manage the Decatur ambulance services in town, and now he's, I think, in management with Abbott.
Was that in reference to a Decatur ambulance bill or an Abbott bill?
Just a minute, if I find it.
It's the ambulance service.
Jason Welton.
Oh, Jason.
Says, Mr. Tate, good morning. I received an email from Jessica Fox today stating that the ambulance subsidy payment were being held for clarification from legal counsel. Can you possibly shed light on what clarification will be needed? I will need to have an explanation to give to my supporters when the check does not arrive. Any assistance you can provide would be helpful. And I replied to him, the Finance Committee saw notes in the ambulance file from the past that made them question all claims in the file. Because the committee has questions, that is why they did not approve any claim for payment. I'm sure the claim will be brought next month after clarification. They will probably be approved, and I've replied that to him. And I forward that copy of the original letter and my reply to Mark, and he basically agreed that I did what I thought we should do.
Is that Abbott?
No, that's
Echo?
Decatur, no, Decatur 2 and OPS.
We don't have any invoices from Decatur.
That was from last month or this month?
I got that letter
The 11th.
after the 11th, after our meeting on the 10th. He had applied, I guess, from an email that Jessica sent to him saying that we did not approve claims.
That would have been last month, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Or last month?
January
That didn't
11th.
come up.
January 11th,
January 11th.
yesterday.
Were those claims from that $52,000 bill that they had that they
I did not, there was not a claim in the file the only claim in the file was 2 from Abbott and 1 from Echo.
I was at one of the committee meetings where they reviewed the statements, and there was a year-long submission from Decatur Ambulance, and it was like $52,000 or something.
Oh, that was right.
Yeah, but well, it was for the calendar year, probably of 2021. But I don't know that they ever paid that or not. It was, I can't remember which committee it was. Fees and salaries, I think.
That would have been purchasing prior to finance.
Right.
No, it wasn't, because fees and salaries by county board action reviewed ambulance bills
Okay.
prior to public safety.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I was at that one. So I don't know if that ever got paid, maybe that's what the letter's addressing, that.
I have a feeling it's a proxy.
No, I believe the letter's addressing the fact, because there was a November and a December ambulance bill for Abbott in the folder, and a year-long bill for Echo.
Okay.
So, that's what Jason was referring to, was the November and December bill for Abbott.
Okay, gotcha.
Which purchased Decatur Ambulance Service, correct? I think it's a proxy.
I don't think they purchased, no, I think they took over service.
Abbott is taking their service from Decatur.
And I have issue with Abbott, paying Abbott anyway, as I sat in the city council meeting where the representative for Abbott assured the city council that they were in no way interested in any stipend that the county offered. They were aware there was a stipend, and they were not interested in collecting that stipend, yet we received 2 bills from them. So I have a problem with that, based on that.
Yeah, so we pulled the ambulance bills and we
Correct.
get a clarification.
The ambulance tax referendum, that was from when, like 1980, whatever.
1988.
That's only for $30,000 a year, or 60. Which one is it?
No, it's a tax levy to provide for ambulance service. We used to levy 50,000. It's been reduced to about 36,000 because there's a surplus. So,
Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't on the old ambulance service, but I spoke with one of the people that was on the old ambulance service. That tax levy is for $25 per visit that the ambulance comes. If they go to the same location with the same person within an hour, that you only get billed one time. I got told that. But that levy is for all of Shelby County. And it was a referendum back in whenever Jessica said it was voted on by the taxpayers of the county to keep that ambulance service at the time going for Shelby County. But it was a levy by the people, voted on by the people, and it's my understanding that if you want to do away with it, it's going to have to be voted on by the people again. It's going to have to be put on the referendum and voted to eliminate it.
I would like to make a request on behalf of financing that we have a most up-to-date ordinance included with our file so we can review this. Is that 1988 the way you understand?
1988 is when they approved the referenda to levy for ambulance. I put the statutory reference that a county can support an ambulance fund in the ambulance folder.
Okay.
And there's also other items regarding county board action. When I was looking for some stuff for the ambulance, I found where they said they wouldn't take a bill that was older than a year and that it had to be for no more than 3 months. So that's,
So what we were reading in that file was actually the most up-to-date?
yes, that's the most up to date.
And that was kind of our confusion. We didn't know whether to.
The other concern is, while it is $25 per call, we are currently looking at 3 invoices that total over $11,000. And we're in January. So that $30,000 that we've levied is a third gone in the first month.
Is there qualifiers to the bill? Like they have to respond to a certain location?
Which creates another issue. These bills have patients' names and addresses on them, and I am the only one on that finance committee that is HRPA certified to even be able to review that.
Not all of those bills have names and addresses.
Not all of them, but some of them.
Stortson does, but the bottom line is, it states the name of the person they're picking up. It doesn't state the medical condition that's been treated.
It doesn't matter. It's
Well,
an
you know what,
identifier.
everybody talked about Keith Petard in the county board meetings about his medical bills,
I
so
wasn't
I don't know
here.
how that's any different. And then if you've got an issue with Stortson's bills, then you need to contact Dustin Probst and say, please don't submit names on ambulance bills.
Then we reduce our qualifiers as to whether or not a patient was actually picked up. We have no way to verify what the legitimacy of these bills. An ambulance service is simply submitting a bill. We have no way to identify it. Where was it at? Who, I mean,
Would an address suffice? Because you don't know who it was, you just know that this address, there was
I think what he's saying is, they could say they picked every one of us up one day, once this month, and we have no way to verify whether they actually did that pickup and transport. We have no way to cross-reference or prove out that the bills that they're sending to us are legit and accurate. Is that fair, Sonny, for what you're trying to say?
we do not have a uniform method whereby the ambulance services are instructed to invoice us. That's why, as she stated, one service does it one way and another service does it another way. That is another problem.
Don't they have a log that they keep? If
They do, that's what they submit, that's what Abbott submits. And when Echo reached out in August, I said, the way they submitted, I said, this isn't gonna suffice, because they basically said, we had 10 calls. I said, that's not gonna work. Date, address, time. So then, in January, I got a year's worth of bills for 2022.
But they are allotted the $25 a call, is that correct? Or
That's your decision.
oh, I mean,
well, purchasing is already.
I think at the end of the day,
Clarification.
we can take this back to committee. I think if we're just presenting the fact that we held out 2 bills. We want to approve the rest, and we held out 2.
But this does help get some information that we know now where to work on.
Okay.
So is my understanding from you was that public safety was gonna have ambulance. This time I realized that finance did, because public safety during their meeting didn't committee, and this would be their issue to address. In terms of
Yeah,
rules and all that.
and that's part of legislative, we need to start establishing these rules by and large. And so, as we're all sitting in here, it would be logical and understandable that all the ambulance bills go to public safety.
And that's where they were sent, but they didn't have time to review.
Lori?
For point of clarification, they were not EMA and ambulance. For point of clarification, EMA and ambulance were not on the agenda, so it was noted that we ought not discuss that since it wasn't made public on the agenda.
Right, so
So it wasn't necessarily.
agenda building and all this.
I think in the future we can do that, but it just wasn't on the agenda, so it was noted that we shouldn't be discussing it.
Don?
I guess I disagree with what's been said. My opinion, if either get rid of the purchasing committee and the finance committee looking at the bills, or else put them all there. I don't feel like that the bills from ambulance and animal health need to go through my committee. I think it's a bill. I think that should go through the purchasing committee or the finance committee, who has approved all the bills previously, my opinion.
Legislative
He's
chair.
not biased because he's on both committees.
I think if the bills go to the finance committee, I get that, an argument there, but I think the underlying issues of the concerns with these bills need to go to the public safety committee to address and address with these ambulance services and how we get some consistency in billing and where things at, and maybe a serious discussion needs to be had whether or not we need to take this to another referendum.
So this is a serious inter-committee issue where public safety can address the parameters of the bills and then have the information to the purchasing committee for resolve of the bill. But
Wait a minute.
in the long and short, the legislative committee needs to get in gear on writing the rules of the board so these committees know exactly what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Moving forward.
Will you
Yes.
explain to me what you just said about public safety can do what? And are they going to review the bills?
Not review the bills, review the ambulance needs. So there are issues within the ambulance situation of the referendum, the bills that have been posed, the stipend.
So the public health, or the safety committee reviews that language, sends it to the purchasing committee, so the purchasing committee knows exactly what they're supposed to be approving, what's an appropriate bill, and what's not.
So purchasing will review all bills then?
Should, that's what it was designed to do.
So the animal control bills and the sheriff's bills, and if there's any EMA bills, they'll all come to purchasing then?
That's what purchasing is, yeah.
Well, okay.
And fees and salaries, because that's part of it, and then there was something else, but we're moving on then. Anyway, any other discussion on committee reports? Just real quick, the budget committee did meet, we discussed the liquor ordinances, we discussed the subdivision and the audits. We've made decisions on part of it in terms of the audit. We've got things to revisit with liquor, we've got other things to revisit with zoning, so we'll be in touch soon on that. Chairman updates, I really don't have a whole lot. I have met with city council, or not city council, representatives of the TIF districts. Let's see, there's Thursday, yesterday. Just largely, the purpose of that meeting was to approve the report that goes to the state. And I was introduced to the committee, if you will. Other than that, there's been lots of things coming through UCCI, things that's going on in Springfield. Jessica's really good about forwarding when she gets the UCCI messages, the ICBM messages, that she's just pumping them right out. Please pay attention to those. Don't inundate yourself with them because it is a lot. I mean, even my notion, it's a lot. So just be mindful of it, be aware of it, check them out. Lots of good information, but it is overwhelming from time to time. Anyway, moving on to chairman appointments, I'd like to appoint Julie Edwards to the County Health Board, Charlie Davis to the Rescue Squad, Sonny Ross to the Rescue Squad, Teresa Bain to Mental Health 708, and Sonny Ross to the Regional Office of Education. Entertain a motion to appoint Julie to the County Health Board. Motion by Sonny, seconded by Dave. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. To appoint Charles Davis to Rescue Squad, ending in the term of 12/31/24.
I'll make that motion.
Carol makes the motion, I get a second. Martha makes a second. Do I have any discussion? Cody?
Is that individual here?
Yes.
Yeah, he's right back there.
Oh, my bad.
Sorry.
Charlie.
Next week, you have to sit my lane.
Charlie, not Charles.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carries. I'd like to appoint Sonny Ross to the Rescue Squad, term ending in 12/31/25.
I'll make that motion.
Carol makes the motion, Martha seconds. Any questions, discussions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Yeah, he's here. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'd like to appoint Teresa Bain to the Mental Health 708 Board.
I'll make that motion.
Martha makes a motion, seconded by Heath. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'd like to appoint Sonny Ross to the Regional Office of Education. Motion by Martha, second by Cody. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In correspondence, yes,
All
Tom?
right, tell me what I'm supposed to do as chairman of the Public Safety Committee with this ambulance situation.
So, there needs to be an agenda item in reference to the ambulance, reviewing ordinances and qualifiers for payment. I think that's going to get you into a lot of discovery. And then once you discover those, once that safety committee is discovers what is appropriate, it can relay that to the purchasing committee, which you're on that too, on the appropriate bills and how they can be paid. And I will say, after numerous conversations around the countryside to this, the safety committee could also draft a blanket form that could be forwarded to all the agencies that are active in the county. And I suppose there could be, the committee members have talked to me about this, so, you know, you create some continuity and uniformity in all this. This should streamline itself.
Hey, Jessica, do you or would Nicole's office have the current contracts or rules we have for the ambulance for that levy?
I mean, I have the the referendum that the voters approved.
And I've seen that.
It's in the folder.
But like where we're not gonna pay bills that are over a year, or?
That's all been county board action that I've just discovered by research, looking for other things.
Okay. So there's not like a uniform? Okay.
Which led us to where we paused.
Basically, the only thing we have for rules for this is the ordinance,
The referendum.
the referendum.
And I would recommend you read the statute regarding ambulance. So, like I said, it's in the folder.
So moving on, I have no correspondences. Any old business? Dave?
This may have been in the committee report, but said on the tourism committee, the Corps reported they're hoping to get the dam back open by March. So that's just a tidbit. It's way over.
Really?
Yeah, and they are intentionally holding water back by the St. Louis has requested that we hold water, so the lake is going to come up. So if anybody asks you about it, they're doing it on purpose. So those are two persons that they took out of that meeting.
Motion to pay bills. I have a motion by Jeremy to pay the bills, payment of claims, and a second by Cody.
I've got something to say
Yes.
before we approve it, okay? In the meeting for public safety, the sheriff's bills this last month were not looked at. And I want to make sure, if we're supposed to look at it, are they going to come to purchasing and be looked at? I think that there's some confusion about the review of the bills and everything else. And I think that needs to be taken care of. If they're not going to come to purchasing, then public safety needs, I think, to look at the sheriff's bills.
I'm gonna
We're
resign
dividing
from that committee.
We're dividing out.
If I have to do that.
Yeah, we're dividing out
Are they going to,
responsibilities here.
are they going to come to purchasing though? If they come to purchasing, they would be put in with all the other bills.
I might resign from the whole county board. I mean, I can't, my time is not valuable, but it is, I don't like to sit on my butt for 3 hours or better at these stupid meetings, arguing about this stuff.
So in the near future, we'll have recommendations. Lori?
In the purchasing committee meeting, I'm sorry, not purchasing, in the public safety committee meeting, when the sheriff presented his bills, I read the statute that you were there for, 55 ILCS 5/3-6018, that says that the sheriff shall direct the county treasurer to pay, and the treasurer shall pay the expenditures for the sheriff's office, including payments for personal services, equipment, materials, and contractual services. Purchases of equipment by the sheriff shall be made in accordance with any ordinance requirements for centralized purchasing. It says nowhere where the committee is supposed to sign off and approve his spending or whatever he's doing. And it doesn't say where the board does it. We didn't feel like it was necessary to look through all of his bills and sign off. He has spoken after that meeting, saying he's quite willing for to the Public Safety Committee and have it available for us to look through, but we will not be approving them with a signature. So that
We
should
never-
take care of it.
We never approved them with a signature anyway, and I'm not saying we approve them, we review them, is what has always been done in the past, as we did in purchasing
There was mincing of
everybody
words in that
else's.
committee, and to clarify, we said we would not scrutinize and approve, and I keep saying with a signature. I don't need to be signing off on his bills. I don't need to initial it, I don't need to, I mean, if he brings them and they're available, I'm happy to review it. I think there should be some transparency, but there's no obligation for anybody on that committee to review and sign off, which was the expectation set at that meeting.
Correct.
The implications that come with putting your initials on a piece of paper that could be bad, unbeknownst to yourself, is a liability that I don't think any of us are qualified to go for. But anyway, Martha, and we'll wrap this up.
As a member of the Finance Committee, I think one of the things that we've realized as a group getting started together, we have some seriously inefficient and ineffective means and methods to, and it is just a review. And the bills have already been paid, so we're not really approving anything, but as Dawn says,
The bills have not been paid. The bills will
those
be
have all not
paid.
been paid, okay.
But the payroll's been paid.
Payroll's been paid, and we get a stack like this. We're
Right.
not going through every single timesheet, but I think we get stuck in this is the way we've always done it, and I think if we can put that aside and work together in the various committees to come up with more efficient and effective ways, working with the department heads, Tad said it many times. There are better ways to do this, simpler ways, more efficient, more effective, some more technology driven, where we're gonna give department heads a ton of time back, we're gonna give their staff a ton of time back, we're gonna give committee members a ton of time back. But it's gonna take a little bit of time, it's gonna take patience, and it's gonna take us all working together, having open minds and having open discussions. But we've gotta put the "we've always done it this way" aside, or we go nowhere,
Well,
my
and
personal opinion.
in correspondences I've brushed over, but I have spoke with the chairmen from neighboring counties. They operate on 3 committees. Their bills are reviewed in an hour and a half. So there are more efficient means of getting business evaluated and taken care of.
On that note, I did tell the committee or members that I will be in contact with neighboring counties, see how they are doing theirs versus us. All 7 of us going through every one of their sheets of the bills that haven't been paid yet.
You're not getting any bills the only thing you are seeing that's been paid is payroll.
Right.
Everything else won't be paid until tomorrow when the checks are taken to the treasurer's office.
Yeah, we take each one of them folders and we pass it around the table, so all 7 of us have to look at every single sheet in those approximately 30 folders.
That's 7 times 2 long.
Yeah. So we're going to try to streamline it. The last time here, yes, day before yesterday was 2.5 hours. I spent another 10 or 15 minutes just.
I promise to be brief. I just want to echo what Ms. Nelson said. At no point in public safety did we declare that we will never review or no one is entitled to review the sheriff's bills. That was not what was discussed. That is not what was voted on.
I didn't say that. I said that the purpose of looking at it is just strictly to review them.
Correct. And you're free to do that, and we made that abundantly clear in that meeting.
I didn't say we were scrutinizing them. I said we were reviewing them.
Okay.
Did we pay the bills?
Let's pay
Motion to pay the bills, been made, seconded. Roll call, please.
Mark
And-
Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
I'm gonna abstain.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole, Charles Davis,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaver, Clay Hardy, Matt Kessler, Nat Martin, Ted Mayhall,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross, Mitchell Chef, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace, Jeremy Williams. Motion passes 20 ayes, 1 abstain, 1 gone.
Motion to adjourn. Jeremy, motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Heath seconds. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
No comment on adjournment?
No comment on adjournment.